Okay, so I think it's a good time to start. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone who has joined us today. Um, if this is your first time here with us, just to let you know, this talk comes in a series of workshops and talks around academic writing that we are organizing in the Writing Academic Writing Center. You can check out our full schedule on our website. And uh, the topic of today's talk is on ethics, a very fundamental aspect of any academic endeavor, and one that has a very powerful presence in every stage of research, from you can say from research idea inception to publication. And to learn more about the role of ethics in research writing and academic writing and publication, we have our very distinguished speaker today, Dr. Basim Alamri. Dr. Basim Alamri is an associate professor in the English Language Institute at King Abdulaziz University. His research interests revolve around topics related to L2, academic writing for publication, including genre studies, corpus linguistics, AAB, ESB, discourse analysis, and technology in the classroom, to name a few. So without further ado, the floor is yours, Dr. Bassem.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Suha, for the introduction, for nice introduction. And I'm glad to be with you here. And thank you for your invitation to talk about this very important topic, as you mentioned. So, in this presentation, I'm going to talk about these 4 or 5 points. First, the definition of ethics, then the importance of ethics in research and publication, ethical principles in scholarly communication, and then common ethical challenges in academic writing and publishing. And last one, some best practices for maintaining integrity in academic publishing. So let's start by know the difference. It's not a difference, but different uh, terminologies or different definitions about ethics. I looked at ethics here from 2 different angles. The first one from research and publication, and the other one is from ethics in academic writing, because these are interrelated. You cannot separate both concepts apart because they are related to each other. First, ethics in research and publication. Here, basically, it refers to the set of moral principles, standards, and guidelines that govern the conduct of research and authors throughout the research process and the dissemination of findings. So this is the first part of research. For any researcher who would like to conduct a research, he or she must follow these certain standards and principles. For the ethics in academic writing here, it refers to the principles and standards that guide scholars and researchers to write with honesty, integrity, fairness, and respect for intellectual contributions of others. So for researchers, they first start by doing research, uh, taking into their consideration the ethics behind conducting research. After that, everything is ready. It's time to write. Then it comes the time for academic writing, ethics and academic writing. So because these 2 concepts are interrelated, so I just try to summarize the importance of ethics in research and publication, and also in writing. We have more than 10, 11 points here. The first one is to ensure integrity and credibility, promote trust in academic community, protect the rights and welfare research participants, prevent misuse of research, encourages accountability and transparency, support reproducibility and reliability of research, enhances fairness and equity in collaboration, prevents unethical practices like plagiarism and fraud, and also facilitate ethical peer review and publication process. This is for those who work as peer reviewer in academic journals. Number 10, upholds public confidence in science and research. Last one but not least, support the long-term advancement of knowledge. So taking all of these points, now we can understand that the ethics, the term ethics, or general, all uh, the surrounding ideas around ethics are important. Now let's now move on to ethical principles and scholarly public communication, generally speaking. So what do you think some of the principles that we are going to discuss? If you can just mention some of them. There are many. They are around 20 principles or some, but we will focus on some common principles. So, from your experience, from your readings, from your knowledge, what common principles that we are going to talk about today? Respecting privacy of participant. Okay. Any other principles? So we have 10 here: honesty, transparency, integrity, yes, using data for purpose stated or different purpose stated. Okay. Integrity, objectivity, accountability, respect for intellectual property, fairness, confidentiality, responsibility to the public, respect for participant, and there are many more, but I just picked the common avoiding plagiarism. Yes, this is the top that we actually we encounter with our students, and also even when we submit our manuscripts to the journals, they will say, okay, you have a nice name for this similarity check, which is basically it's a plagiarism, but they try to make it nice. Okay, they say you have 10% similarity check or 20% similarity check. So let's talk hedging criticism. Okay, so let's talk about some of them. We're not gonna talk about all of them, but some of the uh, common principles. Honesty. Here, researchers must present their findings truthfully without fabricating, falsifying, misrepresenting their data. How report data as it was observed, avoid misleading interpretation of results. So these are examples of how to maintain honesty. For integrity here, it's basically upholding high moral and ethical standards by following the guidelines set by the scientific and academic community. How to deal with integrity, try to avoid practices such as plagiarism, duplicate publication, salami slicing. I like this term, salami slicing, which is basically dividing a single study into multiple small publications. It's a common practice, but it's not preferable, I would say. I don't want to say ethical, but preferable. Ensure that all contributors receive fair authorship credit. We'll talk about this in a minute. Also, we have accountability here, taking responsibility for all respects of the research process, including accuracy of data, results, and conclusion. How to avoid this or maintain this? Be accountable to co-authors, institutions, funders, and the public. You mentioned their names, those who work, those who participated in a study. They need acknowledgement. Follow institutional journal guidelines for research and publication. This is a must, but unfortunately, not all researchers follow the guidelines of journals. Most journals nowadays reject any work that does not follow their guidelines. Respect for intellectual property, give a credit to people. Acknowledge people who collaborated in a project, who participated in a project at any stage. So this is very important, and now uh, it's getting bigger now. This kind of practices. So I would say I read a couple articles. It's getting now popular. I don't know why, but so how to avoid this? By properly citing sources of information, like using quotes, direct quotation, or paraphrasing, but citation is the only solution here. And also in the acknowledgement section, here it is, you can acknowledge people. Use proper attribution, referencing the work of others. Confidentiality, this is very important. Protecting the privacy of information shared in the research and peer review processes. So any kind of information, it's confidential, it's not shareable. So it's a must here. We'll talk about ethical or the consent form later. But when it comes to confidentiality, researchers should protect the sensitive participant data. Any kind of data that may cause or may affect or harm the participant should not be presented or shared with, even with readers, or in small circle with like colleagues, or it should be uh, confidential. Respect for participants, treating research subjects with dignity and ensuring their rights are protected, similar to confidentiality. How do we maintain this? By obtaining informed consent from participants, either verbally or written. Most sources or most researchers prefer written consent form, but it can be verbally. It's okay if you can't get the consent form or written consent form. Verbally would be, I think, it would be enough. Avoid harm to participant, whether psychological, physical, social, at any level of harmness. Okay, let's now talk about some common ethical challenges. We talked about how principles, now challenges, or some people or some researchers might encounter one or couple of these challenges. Plagiarism, fabrication and falsification, authorship dispute or authorship ethics, duplicate publication, salami slicing. We'll talk about some of them, a bit overview about each one. Conflict of interest, peer review misconduct, inadequate citation, research with human subject, retraction and corrections, pressure to publish, and there is a term nowadays, it's like publish or perish. We'll talk about this later on, and it's kind of a challenge for researchers, even for university professors. Either you publish or you perish. Then intellectual property theft. Last one, unethical collaboration practices. Okay, plagiarism. We all know what the plagiarism is: copying text, figures, data, without citation, or I would say without proper citation. Also, we have kind of self-plagiarism, reusing one's previous work without disclosure. So these are the two common types of plagiarism. We suffer, even university professors suffer from this. Also, students, graduate students, undergraduate students, we all encounter this kind of plagiarism, especially copying text. But now with the AI, things have changed. Fabrication and falsification. It is making up data or results. You don't have data, you just make it up. And falsification, manipulating research data. We have some examples here: creating data that was never collected, and adjusting data to fit desired hypotheses, or hiding inconvenient results. And this is not good for researchers and also for their work if they want to hide some data that, or details or numbers that are not, uh, I would say, follow what he theorized at the beginning, or data that did not answer his or her questions, research questions. So then some people, some researchers might change or manipulate the data, which is unethical. I wouldn't say challenge, but it is unethical. Even fabrication, fabricating data is not good for researcher. And I came across a research study, well-known research study, with fabricated data from a well-known scholar. And what happened? The scholar got fired. Uh, his paper was retracted. He was in blacklist in his university. It was a miserable situation for that scholar. For the authorship dispute or ethics, which is basically disagreement or unethical practices in assigning authorship, including adding or omitting individuals improperly. For example, guest authorship, if you know this term, including someone who did not contribute to the research. This is this is called ghost authorship. But ghost authorship, omitting and someone else who made the contribution in a research, in a project, let's say in a paper or in a work. So guest authorship and ghost authorship, so these are two, uh, I would say, dangerous practices, because it it works both way. If you include someone who did not contribute, so then what's the point? But if you omit someone who contributed some, so what's the point? This is very dangerous, and it's not good for the reputation of the corresponding author. For example, if he is the one who is responsible for the paper. Misrepresentation of author order, maybe, this. If, for example, the one who uh, contributed the most in the paper, he might uh, put at the end of the paper, maybe, and in terms of the list, it's not the corresponding author, he's not the number one author, so he might be placed in fourth or fifth, or not the first one, though he or she deserves to be the corresponding author or the first author because of his or her contribution. Duplicate publication, submitting the same or significantly overlapping content to multiple journals without proper cross-reference or permission. For example, when someone attempts to get credit for the same work multiple times, which is self-plagiarism. wasting journal resources and violating journal policies. If a researcher would like to duplicate his publication, publishing everywhere the same paper, or with few changes, just to get it published, or publish as many as papers he could publish. Salami slicing. This is a funny one. Breaking up one significant research project into multiple smaller papers with minimal differences, often to inflate publication counts. And I read an article about a researcher who published 12 articles from her dissertation. 12 articles from her dissertation, which is, I don't know, amazing. Do you agree with me? Or I don't know, 12 articles from one dissertation. It's, I don't know. So publishing partial or redundant data without adding significant new insights, or confusing readers and diluting the research impact. So these are some examples of salami slicing practicing. Conflict of interest, failure to disclose funding sources or relationship with companies that may benefit from the research. And we read a lot, especially during the COVID, you know, COVID time. Some researchers involved in this. Also, it is bias in research design. It could be this is conflict of interest. Uh, some researchers got funded from companies, and then they manipulate or they play around with the data, with the result, just because they, they got fund from the company. So this is conflict of interest, and there are different types of conflict of interest at different levels. We are not going to talk about these types and levels. Peer review misconduct. This is an ethical issue in peer review process where reviewers or authors act improperly. How? By breaching confidentiality, by sharing or using data from an unpublished manuscript, or providing biased or unfair reviews due to personal or professional competition. Both of them are critical. Even if you, and I don't know how this would happen if a reviewer uh, steals a unpublished manuscript because he just or she reviewed it. Well, this is unbelievable. Inadequate citation, failing to properly acknowledge the work of others that contributed to the current research by omitting references or misrepresenting the contributions of cited work. Either you cite them properly or you cite them properly. No way out of this. But omitting references, this may affect even the author, him or herself. Authors or researchers need citations, number of citations. Journals also need citations. So why would a researcher prevent the authors and journals from getting citations and claiming work that uh, is not his or her? So this is what we call inadequate citation. Research with human subject. This is related to research. Ethical, related to obtaining informed consent, maintaining participant confidentiality, and avoiding harm to subjects. For example, lack of informed consent from participants, failure to ensure confidentiality or to de-identify data, ethical dilemmas in publishing sensitive information that could harm participants. This is mostly related to research practice in general. It's not about writing per se, if we say. And last one, which is happening a lot nowadays, retraction and corrections, which is basically handling errors or ethical violations after publication, where authors or journal must correct or retract work. And we noticed this in previous 6 7 months. There there have been a lot of retractions from scholarly journals, top journals, because of many issues that I mentioned here, and mostly delaying the retraction or correction of inaccurate or unethical data or work, then and also unwilling to admit mistakes or correct misinformation. What happened in a journal, if the editor or anyone discovers a misconduct or any kind of ethical issues, what happened actually, the editor would ask the author to correct first. If the author refused, or if the author doesn't want to respond or neglects the emails, so then the retraction stage. So when it comes to the retraction stage, it's not good for the researcher or the author, because this would or will harm the reputation of the author. So that's about the ethical challenges. We still have two more. Pressure to publish here. This concept was coined in around 10 years or something. Publish or perish. This is for university professors, which is basically lead to compromise ethics as researchers rush to publish to advance their career. Just publish without any kind of, you know, here when it comes to this, there must be kind of sacrificing quality for quantity in research output. This is a challenge for professors if they want just to get promoted or to get advanced in their career. So or engage in questionable practices like salami slicing or duplicating publication to boost publication count. So there has been a lot there in this concept, publish or perish, in academia, especially for university professors. Intellectual property theft. Here we talk about unauthorized use or misappropriation of another researcher's idea, data, or finding. Simply put, stealing the ideas of others or claiming ownership of unpublished data. So these are some common ethical challenges in academic writing and publishing. Okay, for when it comes to best practices for maintaining integrity in academic writing and also academic publishing, number one, researchers need to adhere to ethical guidelines. Whenever you see a guideline or list of uh, uh, journal guidelines, IRB, Institution Review Board guidelines, university guidelines, researchers it's a must follow the guidelines or ethical guidelines when they want to write or to conduct a research. Avoid plagiarism. There are many ways of to avoid plagiarism. For example, paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is a very effective way to avoid plagiarism. But again, if you paraphrase, again, citation is very important here. Also, you can use researchers can use website to check the plagiarism, like Grammarly or in iAuthenticate. This is number one. This is for professors. iAuthenticate, turn it in. Researchers can check if they unintentionally plagiarize or got something or similar to check. They can check before submitting to a journal. Transparent reporting of methods and data. No manipulation, no fabrication. Researchers need to be as transparent as possible when they report their data and their methods. Accurate representation of findings. Again, no hiding for data or findings that did not, for example, contribute to the research questions or to the study. Proper authorship attribution. This is very important. Those who participate, those who work, those who collaborate, who contribute, their names must be there, unless if they have something else. Disclose conflict of interest. This is very important, even uh, in everywhere. When someone conducts a research, when submitting to journal, if there is a conflict of interest, any journal would ask you, do you have any conflict of interest, yes or no? Later on, if they discover there was a conflict of interest, then the paper will get retracted. Avoid duplicate publication and salami slicing by creating new ideas, new genuine ideas, topics. Try to find some new ways of conducting research. You don't Researchers do not need to uh, work on one topic or one idea. There are many ideas everywhere. Engage in ethical peer review. This is for those who work as peer reviewer. They and every journal has a list of ethical stuff or ethical form for or videos sometimes to talk about or manuals to talk about how to conduct an ethical peer review. Correct mistakes and issue retractions when necessary. Would anyone do it? Can anyone? I don't know. Do you think that some researcher would say, okay, retract my paper if you don't like it? So the first step here is to correct mistakes. If this doesn't work, then you may issue a retraction. Protect participant privacy and ensure ethical research involving humans or animals. Use ethical collaboration practices. Those who collaborate, their names must be there. Acknowledgement should be there to their work. Even now, some top journals ask about detailed work. Okay, this, for example, author number one, the first author, what kind of contribution that the first author did. For example, theoretical framework, analyzing data, collecting data, writing literature review. They ask, some top journals now start asking about some details about the role of each author and the contribution of each author. Engage in responsible data management. Avoid manipulating citation. Familiarize yourself with journal policies. Whenever have a manuscript, ready for submission to any journal. Number one, step number one, read journals policy and what they want, what they need, what type of data that you need to disclose. There is a new movement nowadays about sharing data, which is, I don't know, but some journals would ask if you would like to share your data as an open access or available for public. This is, I encountered this, but uh, the choice was mine. I said no because the data, I'm still working on the data for another project, so I didn't want to share the data because the data was private. This is number one, and they have a question was, is your data private or not? If not, would you like to share it, make it public, so can other researchers use them. Last part here, retractions. I intentionally put this as a separate slide, retraction and correction, because this happened a lot. So look at this example. A high-profile genetic paper was retracted after it was found that key data points had been fabricated, affecting future related research. It's in a medical field, and it's about genetic or something. So what happened? Many citations, I mean the retracted paper received hundreds of citations, and at the end of the day, and I think you have come across this incident. Okay, consequences of unethical behavior. What happened if any of a if a researcher commit or did something unethical? The first thing is academic consequences: loss of credibility, retractions of papers, impact on career. Legal consequences: lawsuit, loss of funding, institutional penalties, long-term impact, damage to scientific community and public trust. And this is what happened as an example about this study in autism. The retraction of a fraudulent vaccine autism study led to the spread of misinformation and harmed public health. Imagine what happened after, uh, you know, this kind of vaccines and the consequences. So it's very, uh, yeah, it's dangerous reputation damage. So last thing, still have 4 minutes. Conclusion: these are just take on advice or suggestions. Ethical integrity is vital in maintaining credibility and trust in scholarly writing. Following ethical guidelines ensures transparency, accuracy, fairness in the publication process. Always strive for honesty and integrity in your research and writing. And these are some resources: COPE, Committee on Publication Ethics, also the ethical guidelines from journals, Office of Research Integrity, and some other uh, papers and books. That's it. Thank you. And we could have another workshop to detail in some of the most important part, but that's all for our today's presentation. And thank you for listening and for attending the this session.
Indeed. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Dr. Basim, for a very informative and enriching talk. Now we open the door for for questions. Um, if you have any questions, please use your mic. Otherwise, you might type your questions and post it on the chat, and we will read it for you. I myself have plenty. I've been taking notes and taking notes and writing a number of questions. But I'll keep mine to the end and leave open the floor for the audience. Please, if you have any questions to Dr. Basim, this is your time. Okay, I guess until we receive more, well, some questions. I'll start with mine. Um, Dr. Basim, you talked a lot about ethical guidelines. Ethical guidelines, university ethical guidelines, journal ethical guidelines. In essence, do you think these guidelines differ from one another?
Well, it depends here, but generally speaking, yes, when it comes to research, yeah, I think all institutions, organizations, universities, I think they all share similar guidelines because of all universities they must follow the COPE here, Committee on Publication Ethics. So every journal, every institution, every university must follow the COPE. These here around hundreds or something guidelines and elements. So they must follow this. And when you visit any website, when you go to a website, a journal website, you see COPE, COPE. So this is it. Everyone must, or every journal institution must follow the COPE. When it comes to academic writing here, I think some few differences, I would say, not because some journals would accept open access, and now there is another movement, which is it's not double blind review, it's open review. You can see the reviewer, you can know the reviewer, you can also the journal has the right to publicly add the comments and criticism from the reviewer. So it's a new movement. I don't know if this movement is going to be popular nowadays. I don't know, but and I received some of the invitations to review for articles in some of these journals. They mentioned this right away. We apply open review process. The reviewer knows the author, and the author knows the reviewers. So yeah, so I think when it comes to research, yes, similar, but when it comes to writing, here I would say a few differences.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Um, I think, well, this discussion will be picked up by Dr. Muna Sabir, whom we have the honor to have her among our distinguished speakers on this series, and who will talk a bit uh, in detail about peer review process. And uh, I invite you everyone to come and join the
Great.
discussions there. Okay, any questions from our audience? Until then, I've got another question regarding the use of AI. like nowadays AI, a very hot topic, not only in research, but like almost in every setting. And a lot of what AI provides is writing for you or on your behalf. Um, and this is a bit tricky, especially for novice scholars, for students, um, uh, postgraduate students maybe, or even for researchers whose uh, English is not their first language. So, what do you think? What do you think are some of the ethical guidelines that could probably um, enhance the experience of writers? Do you think AI should be avoided at all costs? Or do you think the use of AI in writing can be probably um, framed in a way that makes it ethical?
Well, AI is good, and students, researchers, authors can use AI, but what tool or what tools in AI? So is it just to write the whole paper or to use some tools there? I encourage students, researchers to use AI. Yes, use AI, but what kind of tools? Here, I would say paraphrasing is good tool to paraphrase. It saves time. And plagiarism use tool. There is, a tool from ChatGPT, which is zero GPT. If you copy and paste from ChatGPT and you say, okay, this is my work, just put it in zero GPT, and then the result is there. It's copied and paste from ChatGPT. So I would say yes, use AI to some extent, but not for the whole writing. And everyone can tell if this is from an AI tool or not. Even with my students, I can tell if it's their writing or someone else, or even the AI, because there has been a lot of papers written about how effective is the AI when it comes to writing a research paper. It's not effective. It's not even I don't know. You cannot write a research paper, a full research paper, 5,000 word as a human. And I'm sure this would not happen even in future. Uh, Human minds are different uh, from the machine. The machine is not as a human mind. So I would say yes, use it, use AI, but with limited use in just to improve academic writing, checking grammar, checking spelling, writing style, yes, doing citation, yes, uh, doing paraphrasing, yes, no more than that. Even journals now, if you submit, for example, a manuscript to a journal, there is a consent form. Did you use AI? Do you use any tool of AI paraphrasing and proofreading, paraphrasing, and some of these are allowable. Authors can use them, but not copy and paste from the whole paper.
Yes, I totally agree. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone has anything to add or join the discussion, please feel free to jump and probably comment or raise a question. And I totally agree with you. Like it could be useful at the level of words, sentences, maybe. But like uploading, I mean, sometimes probably in the early days, people might get into the mistake of probably uploading their whole work to AI, and then like ChatGPT or others, and then they would risk their uh, would I say, like intellectual property, because then it's open source. You lose your work to and you risk it to be open to everyone, really. And
Yeah,
yeah, so it's like probably at the risk, like at the level of paraphrasing sentence level, it might be useful. And as you said, uh, now like there's this disclosure you have to make every if you submit to papers. Have you used AI for paraphrasing, or sorry, for like proofreading and so on? And um, even with like data analysis software, um, you have to make,
exactly.
if you use it, then you have to make that statement that it's been assisted, like AI assisted software. I see Mr. Mukhtar,
Yes.
probably to join.
First of all, I would appreciate excellent presentation and very informative, very informative. Not only for the colleagues, but also for our students. They must know these things in their early career. So whenever they will be the teacher or they will join any institute, they must follow these. I just want to add one point. As Dr. Basim mentioned that the use of AI, especially the paraphrasing tools, it's very nice. I like his several suggestions. But you know, there are two very popular similarity check or plagiarism check software. One is known as Authenticate, which we are using in our university, and other is Turnitin. Now, Turnitin, as you know, first Turnitin has added one plugin in that another software which was detecting AI content. Suppose you have taken one paragraph from ChatGPT and you have added in your manuscript, then your plagiarism may be zero, but it will tell you that 20% of your content has been written by ChatGPT or AI thing. Now, as the research is progressing, they have added another tool in Turnitin. Now, Turnitin is also detecting the paraphrasing. Suppose you have written one paragraph from ChatGPT and you have put that paragraph to any paraphrasing software like Quillboard. Quillboard, that is one of the very famous software, and when you will put that in Turnitin will tell you that 3% that software will pick that paragraph and it will tell that two paragraphs have been paraphrased from some AI tools. So this is very interesting and very important for the student. If they are doing some paraphrasing, they must know now there are software which can detect even the paraphrasing in their manuscript. Thank you.
Thank you, brother Mukhtar. Yes, I totally agree with you. Yes,
Yes, so there's AI detecting AI, and this circle will go on. Um, yeah, so I guess it's just yeah, some thoughts for contemplation. But like we never want to eradicate the human. We want the human thoughts. We want the human effort. Uh, we want help from AI, but we don't want the AI to take over for sure.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're approaching the end of our time. Um, thank you, Dr. Basim, so much for speaking to us today. Thank you for everyone who had
Thank
attended
you so much.
the session. And please, use the feedback. If you think you're like anything you have enjoyed, please let us know. Anything you want us to prepare a talk about, let us know in the feedback form, please. And if you like the time, we've probably you have like you have noticed that we've shifted our time from daytime to 7 to till 8 in the evening. If you prefer this time, let us know. If you prefer other times, indicate please in the feedback form. We'll look into your suggestion. Um, with this, we come to the end of our session. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you, inshallah, next week. We'll talk to you, inshallah, next week.
Thank you.